Hello everybody, welcome back to Blue Cat Art and our lion. I'm going to try and do the nose today as promised, and I've currently got the camera on the reference photo. I can't blow it up anymore, I'm afraid. But if you can see that we have a charcoal black and then a bit of bluey grey there, along with a bit of coral pink and a little bit of texture of brown. There's all sorts of little colours in this nose, so hopefully the more we can put into it, the more it's going to look realistic when we're finished, or at least that's the hope anyway. Now, going back to our felt, as you can see, I managed to do quite a bit of the cheek. I think it still needs a bit of fettling, but for now I'm going to leave it alone. We're going to concentrate on the nose. Now, for all of this I've been using a core wool underneath, which gives you a nice base to put your colour on. But rather than using a white core wool, I'm just going to go straight in with the black. I have 4 different blacks. I have a browny black, a bluey black, a charcoal black, and a black. But we try and avoid using the black unless I really desperately can't see any colour in there, because it's it's very deep. It's a deep black, so it's perfect for things like the pupil and those real dramatic looks you want to get. So I'm going to start off with a charcoal black. If you can see, that's a bit difficult. It does have a tinge of blue in it, and it's more of a grey really than a black, to be honest. You don't want too much at a time. So I'm going to use my thick needle, and I'm just going to cover this area here. This little bit here is the actual nostril, so it can be darker than all the others. The one advantage we have when painting with wool as opposed to coloured pencils is that you can put black down as your base colour, and then you can put any colour you like on top and it will show up. Whereas with coloured pencils, depending on the paper you're using, that doesn't necessarily work. And even a lot of paints, you end up with a different effect. So it's quite odd having to work to unremember, if you like, that it doesn't matter what you put over the black. It's not going to turn a different colour. It's still going to be the black that you've put down. You can lighten it and change the shade, but it's not the same as painting. So I have to think totally different when I'm doing this as I do when I'm drawing. So there we go. We're just going to create our nostril here, and you can, I don't know if you can see a very faint line there. That's the actual nose bit, and this is the nostril. Because of the way the photograph was initially taken, we have more nostril than we have nose, and the nose looks really very small at the moment, but I'm hoping that by the time I've done it, it will look a bit bigger and a little more vibrant. So, as I said, this is our nostril. It's not 100% true to shape, but I can change that as I go along. So I'm going to get these stray hairs, and you can see there's a little bit of difference in the height which again, that's going to create the illusion of it being more inside the lion's head, if you know what I mean. More of a cavity rather than just a black blob on the top of his face. So I'm going to keep that advice. Another reason I didn't want to put the coral underneath is I wanted to create that visual difference in height, which will help the eye create that lovely nostril look. Now the nostril comes right into this bit in a curve, so I'm just going to put a little bit more in. Don't forget, less is more. You can always add, and it's a lot easier than taking it away. So I hope you've all been keeping well, and I would love, when I post this and you watch this video, I'd love to see how you're doing with your current felts, and if my videos have made any difference to the way you've been felting. It would be interesting for me to see, as well as everybody else. I think we all need a bit of a boost at the moment, don't we, in this current climate? So just got a tiny little bit there. That's it. And I think that's the shape of my nostril. You always get little white fibres from the bit next door over the top. Just trying to poke them back in. So just going to give this a... There we go. Make sure I've got all those fibres there. And I'll put my trusted nail scissors down somewhere. There we go. Give it a little bit of a snip and a blow. Right, so that's our nostril. We can always add to it and change the colour if we need to. And what I might do is just put a little bit of black later on, just on this bit here, because that's right inside the nostril, so there will be no light catching that bit at all, and that will then create the depths that we need. So okay, right, I'm now going to go into the other piece, and I'm going to go in with a dark salmon pink. So I'm going to use a nice salmon pink as my base colour rather than the coral wool. This is quite a rough wool anyway, so if you can see fine, hopefully you can see okay. I am getting the hang of this slowly. I'm no spring chicken, so technology is not is very hard for me to get the grips of. So, just shove this in. There we go. And it doesn't really matter, this black line here, it was just really to give me a guide when I was doing the cheeks, so I didn't take the cheeks too far in, so I'm not worried about going over that at all. It's just there as a guide. Now this bit of the nose has obviously got to be a lot higher than the rest of the nose, because otherwise it looks like someone's punched him on the nose. So we're going to keep building this up. While I'm doing that, I'm just going to, and just slowly, one bit at a time, we're going to build it up. So as you can see, we've built that up quite a lot, and it's obviously a lot higher than this bit. This little bit here is where the nostril curves back on itself, but it also is lower than this bit here. So I'm trying to find a good bit in the middle. I've still got to add colours to that, so hopefully it won't be too sunken when I've finished. So I'm going to do this little bit across here so we can give this nose a bit of definition and shape. Now this is quite a lilac-y grey, which I don't really have. So I've got a really light lilac grey and my charcoal grey, which I've just been using, and I'm just gonna mix the two together just a little bit more charcoal grey than lilac grey, and again create a cobwebby effect so you don't get too much of one colour and not enough of another, and hopefully that's created the effect. I'm going to take a fine needle and I'm just going to start down here in this corner, and I'm just going to give it a little twist. Now I've secured it, just so it gives a more of a mottled effect. I'll go back with my thick needle actually for a minute. And I'm just taking this shape. It goes up quite high here, and then it drops down into a lovely sweeping curve. And trying not to let go of the wall wire there. Now we will probably go over this area 3 or 4 times, because you never get the right height or the right definition, or at least I don't first time round. So if I keep doing it, it serves as a guide, this first one, for the end result. Now again, this bit here curves right round, so I'm just gonna bring it around, try and keep that curve, which is not always easy said than done. And then it just comes in a little bit there. And then down here. And I'm going to take it all the way down. Back to the line between the nostril and the lip. I'm just going to cut that bit off. Oh, I just dropped my scissors. Sorry about the clanging. Save that little bit for later. And I'm just going to give it a bit more of a poke. Okay, so that's given me that definition line. I'm still going to need to build this up, because this bit here is a lot higher than my actual nose, which really needs to be a little bit higher. So I'm going to take a little bit more of the coral and just build it up so I get the right height. The height that you do things, especially when you do this, makes a huge difference to how your eyes see the image. It gives that extra illusion. So between the height differences and your colour, differences, this is what is going to give you that illusion of looking at a 3D picture when really it's just a 2D picture. And we're not taking the wool out enough for it to be 3D. And this is only probably 1 mil thick, maybe 2 in places maximum. So it's not a 3D image. You're just creating an illusion that it's a 3D image. As you can see, I'm just building up this beautiful nose as we go. It looks very bright at the moment, but hopefully once we get all the rest of the colours on, it won't look so bright. And to be fair, I could have gone the other way. I could have gone in with a darker grey and done this bit first and then just gone over these bits in patches. I don't think there's any hard and fast rule of how you do things. The decision for me was just because I have a lot of this wool, so rather than the dark grey, so it just made it more of an easier choice to say, well, I'll use this because I have more of it. And the colours there, and it will show up underneath all the other colours and give it that different effect. So I'm just building this side of the nose up. I think it needs to just pop a little bit. There we go. And again, I'm not going to panic too much if I go over my guidelines, because it's wool. I can just add or take away. So I'm not panicking too much. There we go. It's starting to build up now. And as you can see, there's a gap in the middle, but we will fill that gap. Like I said, we will go over that guideline again and again as we go. So let's just give it a little trim, give it a haircut. Oh, I don't know about you lot, but I am really in desperate need of a professional haircut. I have mine very, very short, which is handy in a lot of ways, but yeah, it's a bit difficult when you get the clippers out and you make a mistake, and you end up with a few bald patches that shouldn't necessarily be there. So I bet you're all, now the hairdressers have opened today, or at least they have for us in the UK. A lot of people are going, but it's going to be quite a few months before demand has calmed down. So interesting to know what's happening in your part of the world as far as haircuts and things are concerned. Again, do let me know. So I'm going to go back in again with that grey and lilac mix, because if I keep going a little bit at a time, I can then find it easier to stop when I need to, rather than putting too much in and ending up with it being too thick or not thick enough. Or there we go. And then rather than go back down that side, which hasn't really been affected, I'm just going to go back on myself. And the wool doesn't want to play. There we go. There you go, that's a bit better. and we're going to have to build it up as we go, because that has to be the highest point. I think that's got to be the highest point of the nose, because it dips down into the nostrils and it slants upwards to the rest of the nose. But looking at the reference photo, this is definitely the highest point, so I'm just mixing some more wool. Now I know a lot of you do this with carders, but I've not got any of them. I have decided to order some, so but for these little bits it's just as easy, I think, to do it by hand. And I don't want to take the height down into this nostril. I want this to glaringly look different. So I'm just taking it up here. There we go. Give it another little bit of a twist. I'm just going to bring it back again. We're starting to lose that dip a little bit, so I'm just stabbing it against itself. So I'm not going down, I'm going sideways. So I'm just trying to create that dip that we have in the nostril here. And sometimes it's easier to felt onto felt when you want to do something like that. I hope that makes sense, because it doesn't sound like it makes sense, to be honest. Right, I'm going to stop there. Again, my trusted nail scissors. Just chip the end of that off. There we go. And I'm just going to poke that in a bit. There we go, we're starting to take shape. It's starting to look like my nostril. I don't know about you, but I always find as I'm doing these bits, I'm always flattening a stray hair somewhere. I see that I've probably already been over 20 times already, but there's always a stray hair. Always a stray hair. So we've got quite a bit of height on that now, and not quite so much on that corner. Just going to add a tiny bit more coral just on that little corner. Just going to move my, just pulled it off the foam a little bit. Just move the foam a little bit more underneath the nose. I must have a little dip there in the foam. There we go. That dip's gonna annoy me, so I'm just gonna pause it for a minute while I sort that out. Bear with. Okay, that's better. I can actually see there was a big dint, which is what I was felting into. So I've just moved it along a bit. Now I don't know if you've seen this foam before. When I first bought my materials for felting, the idea was to do 3D figures, which didn't come out particularly well, but never mind. I bought a kit from China, and it had this foam here on it, and I find it works really well, and it lasts such a long time. It's easy to get your work off of it. It's very lightweight and easy to maneuver around. And although I can get it in the UK, I found it's very expensive. So I tend to buy it from China, and I just have to wait a week or two or three for it to come in. But actually it's not too long a wait, so it's not so bad. Okay, so I'm now going to go in with a little bit of bluey grey, just very tiny bits there. I just want to put a little bit between that charcoal nose and the pink, just to try and shade this down a bit so it's melding the two lines together. Now, I don't know about you, I'm struggling to find greys. And all the greys I've been buying recently have been either a lilac grey or a blue grey, and they don't seem to be good old-fashioned grey. So if you know of anywhere where I can get some really good greys, please let me know. As I say, I'm based in the UK, so ideally I want to shop in the UK, but I don't mind shopping elsewhere. So I'm just putting that in, and I've got an overlap here, so I'm just going to cut that, because you tend to either pull it one way or the other and it doesn't work, so I'll just cut that out of the way. And it comes quite far down this bluey grey, which I seem to have plenty of. So I don't want, that's it. You see, I've got a thicker line at the top, and then I'm just letting the odd fibre poke down. Hopefully I can blend that a little bit better in a bit. I think as an artist, that's my one struggle with needle felting, is the colours that are available. And because of course you can't always make the colour you want. You know, as much as you can try to add a bit of this and add a bit of that, it doesn't necessarily give you that look that you're looking for. Now, the next bit is quite a dark grey, but a grey. So I'm going to take the charcoal grey, which I have here, and I'm going to take a nice chunk of off-white, not quite cream, I wouldn't say it's cream, but it's a nice off-white. Take a little bit of it, and again I'm going to mix these two together. I've got more off-white than I have grey, charcoal grey, so hopefully it will give me the desired look I'm going for. We shall see. We can only try. So I'm going to take my fine needle and break a bit of that off, because I don't want all of that too much to work with. It's stuck to my fingers. So now I've got a big chunk of, there we go, mix that up a bit better. Okay. Now I'm going going to take a bit of this and I'm just going to add a bit in to try and blend these two parts together better. It's very frustrating when you get little clumps of colour. You have to then try and tease them together with what you're using. There we go, that's better. I'm just poking again. I'm just going to go back to the thick needle and I'm just going to felt this bit against itself just to give a better shape to that nose. Going with the left hand, I think. That's it. That's better. Back to my fine needle. So, and it sort of, the pattern sort of comes up there at an angle, leaving a nice little bit of coral pink down there, and it creates I'm just going to tease it out a bit. It just creates a nice bit. Now I don't mind having the odd dark spot here because it actually looks like he's got a bit of a spotty nose, so in a way this can help you if it's got the little spots on it. So I'm not going to worry too much about, I can always alter it. I'm just going to pull these fibres down here that end up sticking up like a sore thumb. Now this bit here is this colour as well, so it's quite mottled. So I'm going to bring it in and I want to build it up a tiny bit because it's got left behind a bit. So I'm just going to keep adding this colour, and I might have to just add a bit of coral over the top to give it that illusion again, but that's fine. It's easily done. I've just got a bit there, and this part also almost looks like it's going to disappear into the nostril, so but it needs to be just that little bit higher than the nostril, but not quite as high as the main part of the nose. So you want that in between space. Again, we're looking for that illusion of depth that you're creating with the different height and the colour. Okay, so I'm gonna just cut that bit off there rather than fill it all in. If I just cut it off, oops, that blew me wool away. Give it a bit of a blow and then just poking the rough edges, and I can see now where I need to add or maybe take away, but actually I think it may be just a little bit of an add of a tiny bit of coral there. So again, and you're only using, I don't know if you can even see it, you're only using a few little fibres because it's just a hint of that coral. Again, catching the fibres by twizzling the blade around. There you go. And it's just created that colour. So we're not quite as high, but we are higher than the actual nostril bit. Just going to bring these fibres down. There we go. With a bit of a trim. Oh, I keep blowing me bits of wool everywhere. Right, so think we just need a bit more charcoal mix over this side. Before I do that, I'm just going to tidy up this a bit. Now this is all of a sudden gone very pointy when it should be a nice round shape. So I'm just going to go back in with just the plain charcoal and the thicker needle, and I'm just going to round that bit off again. I get carried away and then I lose the shape, so I have to keep going back in to remind us that there's that nice round shape, and it gives this beautiful arch then to this part of the nose. So I'm just gonna take that in a little deeper. Bit more here, and again you're not really felting through the material at this point, you're felting through the felt that you've already put down, so you don't have to poke too hard. Let's see this, just bring this up just a little bit here. I think I had it up high enough. There we go. Just going to swap for the finer needle just to help me with that shape a bit more. There we go. That's it. That's the one. That's the one. Down there for now. I'm just going to add a little bit there, not too much, again just a little bit. There we go. Just going to trim those fibres off. Okay, and just tidy that up a little bit, poke down those excess fibres. And again, this is a really handy trick for grabbing all of the fibres that have been, that if you're like me and you wear glasses at this point because your eyesight's gone to buggery, you can't see those fibres very easily. So giving it a little twirl and it grabs hold of them all, and you can just give it a poke down. Okay, right, so I think I need to find a bit of a terracotta, which, just bear with me. Oh, just dropped 2 pots. Never mind, good job they're plastic. So I've got a terracotta brown here. If you can see, no, not very well. I have to have the phone so close to the felt, otherwise you can't actually see anything, which then doesn't leave much room for showing you things. But I don't know if you can see, it's quite a browny terracotta, because I'm a little bit too pink, a little bit too much coral. I want to add a little bit of warmth. At the moment it's quite a cold nose. I want to just add a little bit of warmth to that nose and give that illusion that it's there. I'm just teasing these fibres so they go where I want them to go. It's not always very easy, as you know. I'm sure they have a mind of their own. I've got it doubled up here, so I'm just going to snip the bend off so I can just separate those fibres just a little bit more. Oh, too much in one place. And just give that, that's it. Now that's warming it up quite nicely. But equally, I don't want it too brown either. And I think I want to put a different warmth in it too. So I'm just going to look for a slight touch of light burgundy. So I'm just going to pause it for a moment. Bear with me. Okay, back again. So I've got, you see that's quite a nice